Have you been to one of these press conferences with Dr. Strang? Have you physically been there?
I have, yeah, actually.
What's the
It's
vibe?
funny because there was one day I went in there and I don't know if this was the worst idea, but I felt like something kind of tingle in my mouth. I wasn't feeling 100%, but like you're supposed to stay home and do
COVID.
that. And I went in and and then that day was when all the cases were spiking and they had like the testing at the Dome. So I went the next day and
What do
I
you,
got
with
tested.
the Dome? What do you mean? Where's
Remember
the,
they had testing at the Dome? They had like a little
like
a
the,
pop-up.
like the club?
Like the club. This was back in November when the second spike was happening and everything.
Really?
Like
No,
that.
I don't remember that.
Anyway, I went in there, got my test done. I was negative, but
Yeah.
I went into OneGov to the press briefing and was like, I hope I don't give Dr. Strang anything.
So how many people do they let in there?
There's probably 7 reporters, but they're all spread out.
Yeah.
It was good. I'm a big. I recommend that they actually have them in person because
Why is that?
just I don't like the structure that's kind of these press briefings where it's like you get one question, you get one follow-up, you go to the next reporter. One question, one follow-up. Because it's just not a natural press conference. You look pre-COVID, you had reporters being able to kind of yell questions.
Yeah.
And then it
Hand
kind of,
up.
puts them off their, gets them off their game a little bit. When it's so structured and the province is, kind of telling reporters how to ask questions, you're kind of leaning on a little bit. It's a little
Interesting.
controversial.
Interesting.
And then it's been structured that way the whole time. And
Yeah.
when McNeil left office and Rankin came in, we thought, man, maybe we might see a little change here. And there has been, but when it comes to the actual press briefings, they're Tuesday at 1:00, Friday at 3. Like we know when they're going to happen.
Yeah.
What's going to come? The same kind of questions. They go in person, then to the phone lines. So I think that reporters are really advocating for just being able to ask questions if they have a question.
Yeah,
That's kind of freedom of the press.
If you're allowed 50 people in one place, why can't you have 50 people in a room?
Right? Yeah. I mean, again, it is the premier and the
Yeah.
Dr. Strang who are running the whole operation, so they need a little
Safety.
little more cautious. But from the overall vibe of things, it's I don't know. It's better than just calling in because. And that's the good part about doing this morning show position because sometimes you're calling into those press briefings and you're the 14th reporter to get your question in, and then it's all vaccine questions right now.
Yeah.
So every question that you had is already asked. So you're like, all right,
What am I even here for?
You're just scrambling you have to ask something.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't know when it's going to come. The press briefing's about an hour. They're going through every reporter. They're doing these like small town papers in like Amherst and Cape Breton, and you're like, get to us, like, we got a newscast at 6:00. We got to get together. So it's just that. It's always a scram, especially when the press briefings are at 3. Then they're always late. Start like 3:15, 3:30.
Yeah.
And then they go till 4:30. And then you get your question answered at like 4:15. Then you had a newscast to put together for 6. So it's always just I don't miss that. Don't miss calling into the briefings for that
100%.
reason. And they're so just repetitive at this point. When when there was a spike in cases and when things were shutting down and restaurants were closing and all that was happening, it made sense. But sometimes now it's like, ugh.
What more can you say? What Dr. Strang has probably said everything there is to say.
Yeah, and we know that, but we still our name's called to ask a question.
Yeah. You kind of have to just rebuttal it and just figure something out to ask.
Yeah. So it can get a little contentious in there too. There's a little back and forth, which is kind of
Is there? I like
fun
that.
to watch.
Little keep everyone on their toes.
Strang was going at reporters for a bit, then had to come back and apologize.
I saw someone that said someone called him old or something.
I think I heard
someone said Dr. Strang, you're in the age
of getting. I don't want to call him out in this. I do know exactly who did that.
I saw Rank and he laughed. It was funny. It was good.
It was no, I don't. I'm not going to say it. I don't.
Do you know who it was though?
That's
so funny.
Yeah. I remember seeing I didn't watch the briefing, but I saw kind of the rhetoric on Twitter afterwards, and was like, "That's hilarious." Don't do that.
Oh man, they're Mark. I don't know if you've met Mark. He's usually where Jeff is now. And
I did meet Mark.
You did meet Mark. He's every what do you call them? Announcement briefings. He's on it like white on rice. He's just okay. What's going on? And he gets a little note and pad, and he makes sure.
That's awesome.
Because there's a lot of sports conversation in there. Rinks open, things are open, so he's always on top of it. But we put it up on the big screen here, and we just.
And it's crazy to think because when they first were starting, I was watching briefings pretty much religiously. The Canada briefings,
remember Trudeau, the beard.
Yeah, we're actually at the year anniversary. Today is the year anniversary of when they announced that it is a global pandemic.